Good morning. Thank you for having you on this channel this morning. Let's go straight this morning what I have for you. But viewers, if this is your first time of coming across our video, subscribe, turn on your notification button and like this video. Yes, information reaching us that America, James Ecker, American Air Force commander said is ready to bomb all the terrorists in Nigeria. Talk about the Boko Haram, the Al-Qaeda, Fulani bandits, and the rest of them. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you very much for having me. And we understand that this is a very serious issue because terrorists have been a major concern for Nigeria. Don't forget that even America is a strategic partner to Nigeria when it comes to fighting terrorism. Even the very Tucano jet that Nigerian government have been using to address the issue of insecurity and terrorism, we got it from United States of America. Not just that, a couple of airstrike, there is an air platform, Nigerian government got it from the same United States of America. But unfortunately, the government of Nigeria at times, particularly under the last administration, do not do enough in terms of fighting this insurgency. Don't forget that during the last administration, it took the government so much time before they could designate Ansaru terrorist organization, as a terrorist organization, simply because these are known Fulani people. Don't forget that even the same Fulani people have been designated as terrorists by Global Terrorism Index. Of course, the Global Terrorism Index sees them as the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. And I think Trump government is a government that knows its onion. I think it's a government that has willpower. When they say anything, they must surely do it. We have even seen the seriousness with which the Trump administration went and bombed Somalia recently, targeting terrorists there. So if James Ecker, the U.S. commander of Air Force for Europe and Africa, is saying, yes, we are targeting terrorists in Africa, in yes, you understand that there are so many terrorists in Africa. You are looking at Boko Haram in Nigeria. You are looking at Islamic State of West African province in Africa, in Nigeria. You are looking at ISIS. There are so many terrorists in Africa as it stands. So I think it's a welcome development because so that Nigerians can heave a sigh of relief. If our government cannot do it, and we have seen American government that are ready to do it, good thing. Nigerian government have always said that yes, America is a strategic partner. Don't forget that even recently we saw the Nigerian police coming to make the position of alleged missing assaulted rifles and pistols, because the Auditor General's audit of Nigerian police of 2019 up to date indicates that about 3,907 assaulted rifles and pistols are missing. But when the police will come to defend the Public Account Committee, they requested for a closer session. Why I'm bringing this is for us to have a sense of the level of insecurity in Nigeria. Because if that chunk of ammunition, assaulted rifle, is in the hand of criminals, as the case may be, I think Nigeria or the citizens are in for trouble. Now, at the level of that defense, the police IG and the police people who came to defend their position requested for a closed session. And Oshomole, who is a member of that committee, and some other committee members said, no, this is Public Account Committee. You must do this at the glare of the press. Let the world know, let Nigerians know what is happening. So the point I'm trying to make is the police thereafter came out after the committee adjourned for another day. The police came out to say the alleged missing assaulted rifles are not missing, rather they are unaccounted for. Now the question is, if they are unaccounted for, who is responsible to account for it? That is why I'm bringing this angle to make us understand the level of insecurity we are facing. Because if about 3,709 assaulted rifles and pistol is unaccounted for, it could be in the hands of criminals. And you can imagine what that means to the safety of Nigerians. So I think the way it is, America is welcome to come into Nigeria, to come into Africa through their efforts to decimate Boko Haram, to decimate ISIS, to decimate ISWAP, whatever they are found, because Nigerians need to have peace. Nigerians need to sleep with their eyes closed, particularly in the northeast, where you have serious level of insecurity. I think in some part of Middle Belt, it is still a very big issue. And even in the southern part of the country, we are seeing a very serious issue because don't forget that the governor of Oyo State the other time, of course, recently raised alarm that the bandits who have been dislodged from the northwest are already hibernating in southwestern forest. That, of course, made the southwestern governors to come together as a way of looking for solution. Amateku has since raised about 2,000 men to go into southwestern forest to comb it for a purpose of dislodging them. Don't forget that even recently the southwestern governors came together to say, yes, we are forming a joint committee as a way of addressing this security. So, Mr. James, I must tell you categorically that the U.S. Chief of Air Force, James Hecker, his idea is welcome in Africa and Nigeria.
Okay, if you say it's welcome in Nigeria and Africa, what will also still take you? Let me take you back because we remember when Jonathan was in power. Then when he brought, this man, then the head of army that was busy fighting this Boko Haram, then was busy neutralizing those terrorists. The Hausas, the Fulanis, who said they hold Nigeria, said no, Tinubu have come to destroy the north. And that's why they come out Jerica, something like that. Now, Jerica. That's how they forced Jonathan to remove that man, that because he has brought Igbo man to come and wipe away the northern out of the planet. Now, if you think this man coming to come and stop all those terrorists, would the northerners to stand that President Gulo, President Tinubu have allied with Donald Trump to wipe away the northerners? Just the same way they did during Jonathan.
The moderator, I must say that it doesn't matter the opinion of the North. I quite acknowledge the position you just presented because under Jonathan, we see a situation where a serving governor in the North talking about Murtala Nyako led his colleagues to the United States of America at a press conference, accused the Jonathan government of exterminating Northern youths simply because the Nigerian army then, under the former government of Jonathan, was decimating Boko Haram through the then chief of army staff, General Jerica. And of course, we understand that some lot of elements, leaders have always had sympathy for Boko Haram. At the point, don't forget that somebody like Amadou Sherry was even accused of sponsoring Boko Haram, though that has not been proven. Even the current vice president was accused at some point. It has not equally been proven. But the point is, it doesn't matter the opinion of any leader in the North. The point is, the average Northerner, the average Nigerian need a peaceful environment. Mr. Moderator, let me even tell you that I had a conversation with someone from Sokoto after the election of 2023. I was asking him, who do you people vote for? He said they voted for Tinubu in their locality. I said, why? He said they have had enough of Fulani, that they want a change, that they don't no longer believe that the Fulani can protect them, that they don't believe that in a Fulani president, their life is safe under a Fulani president. So it gives you a sense of what people are suffering in that part of the world, or part of the country, if I may say. So, Mr. Moderator, I want to tell you that it doesn't matter the opinion of the average Northerner. If what James Hecker is saying is what America intends to do, is welcome.
Now, you say it doesn't matter for the Northerner. Let me see ask you again, because one will say that Northerner claim they have the numbers when it comes to it. They will still, I believe that they will still go ahead and threaten President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. Man, if you want to come for second tenure, which is 2027 election, you must do according to what we want. Because as it is now, there are some elements that are using these terrorists to feed. Don't forget that recently, Adam Sochomole also raised alarm of how they are mining, how the former retired military are behind the mining in the north. Don't you think that the retired military too might have hand in this bandit, this terrorism in Nigeria, and so therefore they might stand to fight President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Donald Trump, because if you want to go and collect where somebody is eating, you will not expect that the person will not give you a fight. Do you think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have what it takes to contend them if they want to fight President Bola Ahmed Tinubu by collecting food from their mouth?
I want to tell you that Tinubu is someone that has willpower. He will not be perturbed. Even currently, I will have a situation where even Bodejo, the chairman of Mietiala, is in detention because he's accused of banditry. And the government has since secured a court order to keep him in custody for 2 months to enable them to conclude the investigation. So there's somebody like President Tinubu is not the one you can push around. He's not bothered about it. So long as what he's doing is in the interest of the people and it will enhance the safety of the people, I don't think the Tinubu will give in for that. So I don't think Tinubu will be bothered whether they accuse his government of handling the North, as long as what he's doing is in overall interest of national security and peace. I think he will not be perturbed by that.
Okay, let me also ask you this question. One will say the Igbos are crying now, both in Nigeria and diaspora, that the marginalization of Igbos is becoming too much. Over some years ago, during Buhari government, we saw Evans, the kidnapper, who was arrested almost the same time with Wadume from Taraba State. But I speak to you now, to know we don't understand what is playing, what the federal government are trying to play. Wadume has been released from the prison, and Evans is still in the custody of Kuje prison. Even when he comes to court that he has repented, it's no more the advance of kidnapper before. He has learned his lesson. But as he talked to you, he kept under the, he's still under the prison. Is it that the Igbos are the second-class citizens, while the Northerners are the first-class citizens, sir?
No, I think what happened in the case of Evans and Wadume is a case of where you commit the crime and the law of the state. So I don't think that has anything to do with marginalization or favoritism or preferential treatment. Because the law of Taraba State says if you kidnap, you are, upon conviction, you will be liable to XYZ number of years imprisonment. And I think that is what happened to Wadume. He has since served his term and be set free. You can only advocate that let them have stricter penalty for kidnapping, not that the law they have currently should not apply. Remember that recently there was a case of somebody stealing fire in Osho also, where he was sentenced to death, and people were shouting that this law is draconian in nature and people should advocate for a review of it. But whether the law is draconian, that is the position of the law at that moment in that state. Coming to the case of Evans in Lagos State, the law of Lagos State says if you kidnap, if you kill, if you do this, the penalty is what have become or rather befell of the man Evans. So I think it's a case of where you commit the crime and the law that apply in that state. It's another thing to say Evans have repented, and that has to do with between him and God, because according to the injunction of God, according to the word of God, once you repent from your heart, God will forgive you and wipe away all record of sin recorded against you. So I think if you are repented genuinely, of course, you will have earned that favor from God.
Now, if you talk about where you commit offense matter, one will say that Mazinam Dekano, most of the allegations that have been levied against him by the federal government, he did not commit it in Nigeria. So, but as I speak to you, he's still under the tensions of Nigerians. Try him again, even when the appeal court have said the way Mazinam Dekano was being brought to Nigeria was unlawful by Buhari government. Is still under the cap. So if you are justifying this, maybe probably the Igbos that will be watching this video, Biafrans all over the world, that maybe you are not fair enough for the way you analyze this Wadume issue and Evans.
Look at Nnamdi Kanu case. You see that Court of Appeal in Nigeria have already ruled that Nnamdi Kanu was extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. As such, the federal government of Nigeria have lost every right of prosecuting. That judgment is still subsisting, is still on. The only thing is that federal government appeal that judgment and apply for self-execution, though the self-execution is granted, but then Nnamdi Kanu himself is challenging the self-execution granted the federal government, arguing that in such a case that is not legal for the court to grant self-execution, that he ought to be enjoying that judgment. I totally agree with that position. Coming to the issue of where somebody commits a crime, jurisdiction. It is even part of what Nnamdi Kanu is presented to the court currently. After asking Justice Binta Nyako to recuse herself from the case, of course she recused herself at the first instance. The chief judge of Federal High Court, Justice Soho, asked the case file to be returned to her, and Nnamdi Kanu have maintained that let that case be reassigned to a judge in the Southeast, because that is where the offense was allegedly committed. And Nnamdi Kanu himself made it clear the other day that in the course of having conversation with his legal team, that the federal government team got to know about what transpired, and that led them to amending some of the charges against him. So all we are saying is still within the realm of the court. Judgment have not been given. So, and the constitution say one is innocent until proven otherwise by a court of competent jurisdiction. So the way it starts, now the Kanu is still innocent before in the face of the law.
So I want us to round up this convocation with this. One will say yesterday we saw prominent Nigerian leaders, past president and many leaders gathered to celebrate the launching of IBB books. And dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they said that without IBB, he will not be what he is today. But if you look at categorically all the leaders we have, all of them, they maneuver in one way or the other to become a leader. And don't you think with this thing, it is only Yaradua, let Yaradua, may gentle soul rest in peace, and Jonathan, that they try to make sure they cut off the way we maneuver ourselves into government. But as I speak to you, immediately after Buhari become president, the things have gone worse right now. The way they force themselves on people, even when people reject them. Yesterday, they were busy praising IBB, who are not the election of Abiola, who won the election yesterday. Don't you think that the future of Nigeria is at stake? Because if the coming children who don't know what happened, they read book and they see the way they are praising IBB yesterday, don't you think that this will also motivate others to go into crime and see, at the end of the day, if they're successful, Nigeria will also see praise them?
Let me tell you that it's quite unfortunate that Nigerians celebrate those who subjugate them. But what happened yesterday, of course, for me, is a testimony that, contrary to the impression the public had about IBB, that IBB is not as smart as people thought he is, that IBB is not the Maradona we used to know, that it was just cosmetic when they tried to package him as someone who is a Maradona in his game. Because this is someone who has come out clearly to say, yes, I was not in charge. Because admitting that some elements in his government, led by Abacha, lured him, convinced him into acknowledging 12. It's a clear testimony that in the first place he was not in charge. It's a clear testimony to show that he was not competent, he was not a good leader, because he, on one hand, he claimed that he was a leader, he was in charge, he's accepted responsibility for his action. On the other hand, he's saying that there was an insinuation, an opinion, perhaps from those he worked with, that if he handed over to Abiola, that Abiola would have been assassinated. They begin to ask, Abiola, who is touted to have state managed some coups, whether wrongly or rightly, in Nigeria, if you now hand over to him as the commander of the armed forces, as the president and the commander of the armed forces, who can then turn around to kill him or overthrow him? A master of the game? You begin to ask questions. So for me, IBB end up exposing his incompetence, end up exposing himself as a failure, as someone who was not prepared for leadership. He messed up the whole thing. How can you tell Nigerians that you are accepting responsibility, you are accepting that the election was free and fair, that the only thing you could not do was to extract commitment from the people you are working with, that you needed to hand over to someone who won an election? For me, I think IBB should be hiding his face in shame. And what he has just said, for me, is not appealing to me, because I saw the rhetoric around it, how the former leaders were eulogizing him, praising him. For me, he deserves no praise. I cannot applaud him, because he brought shame to this country. He brought shame to himself. What he has done is place retardation on the movement of democracy in Nigeria, in Africa, and in the world. Because if we had returned to democracy at that point, perhaps by now we would have grown. Democracy would have evolved more than this in Nigeria, more than what we're having today.
Thank you so much.